Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to another edition of Career Coach Office Hours. I spend time Fridays at 9 a.m. and Tuesdays at 9:15 talking with you about, answers to questions I've received about job search, hiring, management, leadership, dealing with different workplace-related issues. And today I'm going to add in an extra piece, which is about the jobs report that the U.S. released this morning at 8:30 a.m. Now, I watched it on CNBC, and it was fascinating to watch people who I think they know, but obviously consistently don't know. So generally, trouble streaming to LinkedIn. That's interesting. Okay, I'm going to have to check on LinkedIn to see if the stream looks okay. But the long and the short of it is that people have this idea that there were going to be lots of jobs there. There was going to be lots of availability. A lot of positions were filled, and that wasn't the case. All the estimates that I saw were for over 550,000 new jobs created. One person, being contrarian, spoke about, I want to say, 440,000 jobs. And in point of fact, the jobs report showed 220,000 new jobs, a lot less than everyone anticipated. And the result was that, big misses. And I think when I looked and listened and I interpret some of the things that I see going on, just to go a little bit further, 210,000 new jobs created, unemployment fell to 4.2%. The U6 rate, which is for people who are underemployed, that came out dropping to 7.8% from 8.3%. These are all big number drops. But I think where people are missing is a lot of people lost their jobs in recent months to mandates. And they can't go back to jobs right now. So they're starting new businesses. And the fact is, that's where most of the job creation is going on in the United States, is with new business. There was the Business Council representative talking about job creation, and he pointed to a statistic that says 2/3 of new positions are created by small business. Okay, this should be pretty clear. So the long and the short of it is, if you're looking for work, one of the places you should be looking is with smaller to mid-sized businesses, which is really where the jobs are at this point. And I'll just simply say, by the way, if you're on LinkedIn and you're able to watch this, message me. I just want to know I'm connected to LinkedIn. And if no one messages me, I know I'm not connected. Disappointing, because LinkedIn is really where I like to. Is where I like to really connect with people. But let's just see. It looks like I might be on LinkedIn. Yeah, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing the broadcast. It says waiting for broadcast. No, that's the wrong episode. Whatever. It is what it is. So rather than fixate on this, I'll just simply say the data is that there are many more people unemployed and unable to find jobs because of mandates that cause them to lose their jobs. Generally, these are government employees in any number of sectors, and they have to create alternative work. It's unfortunate, but it's the way it is right now. So with that being the case, I just want to encourage you, don't neglect small to mid-sized businesses. They are a huge, huge part. Okay, there's an issue with LinkedIn today, so my apologies there. it doesn't look like it's connecting. So there's an issue with people getting back to employment status because of mandates. And although mandates have been struck down in many federal courts, it's going to take a while for people to find jobs because they were government workers and skills may or may not translate, so they're starting new businesses. And I think that reflects on the household survey where it points to that there are a lot of new businesses being created. And go to bls.gov. Look at the data yourself. It's really quite interesting. I just had a quick moment to skim it after watching the numbers and the apologists talking about what was going on. So if you have a question for me, put it into chat. I'd be very happy to answer it for you. So let me go to some of the questions I've received. And the first one is, why do companies use recruiters rather than finding a candidate themselves? Were it that easy? Like, there's no candidate tree. So when you're an employer, I don't care if you're the largest firm in the world or a small one, you have to find qualified people that serve your needs. And there's only a finite amount of resources that you can deploy to find those quality people. Now, larger firms have an advantage because of a recognized brand name and streams of resumes that arrive, which is part of the problem. Streams of resumes that arrive that they're compelled to respond to and pay attention to, because the fact of the matter is, they want to be courteous because these are potential customers for them. And thus, they waste a lot of time reviewing resumes of people who are unqualified. With smaller companies, few may know about them, and the person or people that they need may never have heard about them. Thus, what recruiters do for a fee is beat the bushes to find talent to fit these roles, pre-screen it, and serve it up for a fee, contingent upon the person remaining in their employ. If you can find quality people who can fill your jobs without using a recruiter, you should do that. And I speak as someone who worked as a recruiter for more than 40 years. But the fact of the matter is, most firms struggle with that. And thus, I always remind people, your job is to fill the job. How you do it doesn't really matter. Just fill the friggin' job, and however it comes about, whether it's a third-party recruiter, through advertising on LinkedIn or elsewhere, through employee referrals, just do the right thing and find great talent for yourself. Okay? So they do it to save time and money. What are some tips for correctly evaluating a frequent career switcher during the hiring process for a long-term employee? So I start off with the premise of you have to trust them. Because the key phrase here is frequent career switcher, not job changer, frequent career switcher. And thus, the question is, why is your situation going to be different for them? What can they tell you that's going to make you trust them? And thus, I would set them up. And I would do it in a way, because I want to know how to trust them, because they have changed careers frequently. What have you been looking for that prompted you to change careers a couple of times? Like, you went into, I'm making stuff up here, you were a lawyer for 4 years, and then you became a furniture salesman, and then you progressed to going to graduate school to become a psychiatrist. And now you get where I'm going? I want to understand the thought process behind this. Where did it disappoint you? Becomes the follow-up question. What do you understand about this job? And let me tell you what day-to-day is going to look like around here. Because I want to scare them off if I can. I want them to hear the truth about what the work is going to be like, what the working conditions are going to be like. And thus, if they're thinking that there's going to be sunshine, rainbows, lollipops, and all sorts of good stuff, the likelihood of that happening is pretty darn small, isn't it? So the long and the short of it is I want to know the truth about the role. I want people to understand what it will really be like. And thus, if they go, oh, I didn't really think it was going to be like that, they made the decision for you, didn't they? So it's really about trust. And trust is going to be not just simply what they say, but how they respond in their body language with what they say. So the key thing for you is, do you trust them? And thus, the easiest way to get there is to tell them the truth about the job and stop selling it. Okay? Next question. I currently work for a company that contracts to a major firm that sold a division, and it's spinning off the services that used to be combined in New York and Boston. This person's company, which is a contracting firm, wants them to manage a small piece of, a small site in New York. If I take on the new additional assignment, my company won't pay me the current merit increase set to begin in January because there will be an increase in salary due to more responsibility. I can't have both. So it's one or the other. Does that seem crazy to you? You know, you've heard of the phrase gaslighting. Companies say a whole bunch of crap, and they actually look convincing saying it, but they're making up their answer. They don't want to pay you. It's that simple. It's one or the other. The fact that you earned the previous money based upon your previous performance got you the raise. It got you the promotion. So they're just making stuff up to try and talk you out of it. Don't worry about it. I would also say, I'm not so sure I want to do this assignment. I have to move from they're currently working in the Pacific Northwest to New York. Cost of living is going to be a lot higher. Quality of life it's a lot tougher. Tell me why I should really do this and not get both increases. And if they say, well, it's take it or leave it, I'm thinking about it. And I'm not sure I'm going to take it. And you start looking for something else local to where you are, where you don't have to do this, and you don't have to be lied to. It's pretty much that way because they're making up a story and you can make them sweat. They can tell you, if you're not going to take this assignment, we don't need you. And you can shrug your shoulders and make a decision in advance of that happening. But you've got a bargaining chip. Use it. Don't fall for their bluster and their excuses and a rule that they made up, because that's really what it is, a rule they made up. Let's see now. Why is a cover letter a must for a job application? Well, if this is a request from an employer, it's a must because they said so. If this is a question about marketing yourself, what a cover letter lets you do is call attention to specific parts of your background that fit the role. Now, let me start by saying cover letters used to be a physical sheet of paper that would be attached to a resume and placed on top of it to cover it. That's why it's called a cover letter. These days, if you're emailing a resume, don't send it as an attachment. Use it as the body of the email so that in this way, what you're able to do is highlight your background that fits the role. I'm forwarding my resume to you for the position of such and such. Let me walk through my background and demonstrate how I fit the role. Then flush left, you indicate what the relevant experience is in a list and what the functionalities of the job. Flush right, how long and how recently you've done it. If you haven't done one of the requirements, then very simply don't include it. But the idea is you call attention so that people want to open the resume because they're favorably predisposed to you. They're ready wagging their tail like a puppy, you know? So, next question. Should a company have an internal recruiting team or use recruiting agency services to help hire candidates? What are the cons and pros for both options? So larger companies have recruiting teams. They have lots of positions open. They have big budgets. They try and control costs by having recruiters do it. I say that because the cost is a LinkedIn license, access to the applicant tracking system, employee salaries and benefits. That may sound like a lot of money, but let's say you pay $75,000 a year for someone, plus a seat for LinkedIn and overhead costs. Maybe it's costing $110,000, $120,000 per person. Each individual only hires one person per quarter. The salary's made up on the basis of a $30,000 per person fee. That's the equivalent fee, let's say, on the agency side. So a larger firm finds benefit in having an internal recruiting team. Smaller firms, on the other hand, they don't have as many jobs to fill usually. They're not going to spend on resources. The bigger issue is a process that interferes with hiring. And thus, what they're better off doing, frankly, is using recruiting firms and just paying on a need basis. So you don't have the additional overhead. Yes, you're going to kiss a bunch of frogs before you hire someone, but that happens regardless. But you don't have lots of overhead. And I just found that with smaller and mid-sized firms, they tend to be better off just contracting for recruiting firms to fill their jobs. So what are the pros? What are the cons? Really very easy. It's all about cost benefit. It tends to be less expensive for smaller firms to only use recruiters. And if I'm wrong, on the basis of 4 hires at $30,000, that's $120,000. If an average fee for you is $20,000, that's 6 hires. It's still not that expensive by comparison to what a large firm has to pay for. Is asking the recruiter to have a week to 10 days, this is a corporate recruiter, is asking the corporate recruiter to have a week to 10 days to consider the job offer weird or uncommon? No, it's not weird or uncommon, but they know you're not all that interested in their job at that point. And I say that because you should have been thinking about this job and whether you would take it all the way through this process. They interpret this delay as you're not sold on the job and they should keep interviewing. They also interpret it as you're waiting for something else and they should keep interviewing. They may turn around when you say, I'd like a week to 10 days to think about it. They ask, what are your concerns? What are you going to think about? No, I just want to think about it. But what are you going to think about? At which point you've got really nothing to say, unless you're going to say to them, I'm not sure about this job. Like I said, they know you're not completely sold on the job, and they're not going to sell you on the job opportunity. Try and get you back to talking to the hiring manager and a variety of other things, which isn't bad because it creates a delay anyway. So the long and the short of it is it's not bad, but it's a signal to the employer that you're not so sold on the idea of joining. Why is visual communication used in public speaking? Because most people are visual learners, not auditory learners. They don't learn through listening, they learn by seeing or seeing and listening. And thus, it's more engaging for that part of the audience to wind up with something visual to look at. Even though you may think they're distracted and not paying attention to you, they are learning what they want to from doing this. Let's see now. On your LinkedIn profile, should you go close to the maximum number of skills, which is 50, or just include the top 10 or so that you're the best at? People will add skills on for you. And I'll use myself as an example. I started off in recruiting. A lot of what I did was technology-based work. And thus, it was kind of surprising to me to see people add in things like SDLC, System Development Lifecycle, which I knew how to evaluate for, but ask me to develop a system following a life cycle. I couldn't do that. My life depended on it. So people will add stuff in. I'd start with the top 10 and structure them, list them in a way that emphasizes the most important ones first, because those are the ones that people are going to gravitate to, and those are the ones that you want them to gravitate to and to recommend you for. So always do that first, and then you'll notice that people add stuff on. If it's not suitable for you, you delete it. If it is suitable for you, leave it there. Other people may click on it because they're trying to be helpful, as they were with me when, they would talk about SDLC. But the long and the short of it is, start with your 10, know that they're going to be added on, and work from there. Last question for today. If you interview a candidate, you realize during the interview that they're overqualified, would you score them low so that they don't get the job? If so, is this sort of thing ethical? It's not ethical. It's not unethical. It's dumb. Here's what you should do instead. You're making an assumption that this person isn't interested in what you have available. So what you want to be doing instead is saying to them, let me walk you through the job, because I have the idea that you're really much more than what we need. And I don't want to use the overqualified word. I think there's a lot that we could utilize in your background, but you're going to spend 2 years doing such and such. And I don't know if you want to be doing that for 2-3 years. So let me walk you through the job as it's going to be, so that we're crystal clear about what we want and what our expectations of you are going to be, so that in this way they can make a smart choice. They may say to you, this is perfect. I really don't want to manage 25 people anymore. I don't want to even manage people. I never did. I just like being a developer. I like being a CPA. I like whatever it is. And thus, what you're able to do is, lay it out for them, listen to their response. And as I said in an earlier answer, you have to figure out if you trust them. If you trust them, you may have gotten a bargain. Now, they may say to you, how much is this job paying? $95,000. Ooh, I'd have to take too big a salary cut for that. And it's not about their being too senior or overqualified. They can't afford to work for that money. Lay it out for them so that each of you can make a good choice. I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. I just want to remind you that No BS Job Search Advice Radio is now available in video form on Spotify. On other platforms, it's an audio platform. It's an audio podcast, but on Spotify, it's video. So I hope you subscribe on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. But I'm just mentioning that there's another avenue as well now that could be video. So again, No BS Job Search Advice Radio currently comes out 5 days a week. I think after the new year, it may be out 6 days, but I'll see. But I want to help you find work more quickly. So visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us. I've got thousands of posts there that you can watch, listen to, or read that'll help you find work more quickly, hire better, manage and lead more effectively, and help you with different workplace issues. In addition, if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, you can schedule time for a free discovery call there or schedule time for coaching. I'd love to help you. Also want to mention, well, I've got a variety of courses that you can explore at my website. Again, thebiggamehunter.us, and a variety of different services that can help you too. So again, go to the site, go exploring. And if we're not connected on LinkedIn, send a connection request to me at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. Hope you have a terrific day, and most importantly, be great. Take care.